Imagine walking into the headquarters of a Fortune 500 company, 10 years from now, and finding half the desks completely empty.
Right.
If you scroll through your feed or watch the news right now, everyone just assumes those empty desks will be the victims of some massive AI takeover.
Yeah, that's the standard narrative.
Exactly. The narrative is that the algorithms are coming for all our jobs. But when you actually look at the macro data, it reveals a much scarier reality. Those desks aren't empty because the humans were fired.
Yeah.
They're empty because there are literally no humans left to hire.
It really is the ultimate paradox of our current economic moment. I mean, the fear of mass human replacement is everywhere, yet the reality on the ground is a severe structural scarcity of human beings.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into a really compelling paper by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover, and it's called The Ratio of Labor to Tech.
Right.
We're going to use this research to figure out how the smartest organizations are surviving this collision between a shrinking workforce and booming AI.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just a conversation about software. It is about the very real people required to keep the global economy from just grinding to a halt.
What's fascinating here is that Westover frames this not as a zero-sum battle between people and software, but as a dual transformation.
Dual transformation.
Exactly. Organizations are attempting to navigate two massive, simultaneous tectonic shifts. You have a workforce that is rapidly contracting on one side and a technology stack that is rapidly evolving on the other.
Right.
So the mandate for companies is no longer to pick a winner between labor and tech, but to discover the structural mechanism for how they actually coexist.
We really can't talk about finding this perfect ratio without looking at the terrifying math happening in the background. Because, AI isn't arriving in a stable, healthy labor market.
It's far from it.
Let's talk about the demographic cliff. I mean, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day in the United States alone.
Yeah, 10,000 a day.
And when they leave the building, they aren't just leaving an empty swivel chair. They are walking out the door with decades of institutional knowledge, specialized industry expertise, and just deep relationship capital.
And you cannot easily replicate that kind of tenure. It's just not possible. And the severity of this issue is compounded by what is happening at the other end of the age spectrum.
Right, the younger workers.
Exactly. The problem isn't simply that senior people are leaving, it's that there aren't nearly enough young people entering. The U.S. birth rate plummeted from 2.12 births per woman in 2007 to just 1.64 in 2023.
Wow, 1.64.
Yeah, and a population requires a replacement rate of 2.1 just to maintain its current size. We have been sitting well below that threshold for over a decade now.
Which creates this brutal pipeline effect. Because, you cannot hire a 22-year-old worker today if they weren't born 22 years ago.
Right.
It is a fundamental, inflexible constraint of physics and time. And when we look at the data from Lightcast, Georgetown University, and the Indeed Hiring Lab, they all just converge on this exact point.
They do?
The structural labor contraction is going to intensify aggressively through at least 2032.
We really have to separate this from our normal understanding of the economy. I mean, these aren't cyclical economic downturns.
Right, it's not a recession.
Exactly. This isn't a temporary market correction where a CEO can just freeze hiring for 6 months and wait for conditions to bounce back. These are fixed, irreversible demographic realities.
Yeah.
The Georgetown research projects severe, unfillable shortages across healthcare, advanced manufacturing, IT, and the skilled trades. And when Indeed looks at their transaction data, job posting volumes are consistently exceeding applicant volumes.
People just aren't applying because they don't exist.
Precisely. And the wages in these specific constrained occupations are growing significantly faster than general wages, which is, the classic economic proof of a supply-driven shortage.
So the human supply is basically drying up.
Yeah.
And naturally, the immediate corporate reaction is a massive sigh of relief directed at Silicon Valley.
No, absolutely.
Management thinks, thank goodness for artificial intelligence. We don't need to find these missing humans. We'll just automate everything.
Yeah.
But Westover's paper totally dismantles this.
It does.
Studies from Revelio Labs and MIT show that AI productivity gains are actually materializing much slower than anticipated. The companies pouring the most capital into AI infrastructure are simultaneously increasing their human capital investments.
Because they are discovering the hard way that AI is an amplifier, not a substitute.
It's like the ship is taking on water. And instead of hiring more crew, management just buys fancier buckets. Like they buy the AI buckets,
Yeah.
but you still need humans to swing the buckets.
That's a great way to put it.
But wait, I have to push back a little here.
Okay, go ahead.
Because AI can write code and analyze data in seconds right now. Large language models are incredibly fast. So why isn't that sheer speed immediately making up for the missing workers?
Well, because speed and volume are not the same thing as contextual judgment.
Okay, how so?
AI is essentially a highly sophisticated pattern recognition engine. It processes historical information at incomprehensible speeds, but it lacks the contextual awareness of a specific dynamic business environment.
Right, it doesn't know the office politics.
Or the unwritten rules. Like, an AI can generate a piece of code that is technically flawless, but violates a legacy internal security policy that only a human engineer actually knows about.
Oh, well, yeah.
Or it can spot a perfectly logical data trend that fails to account for a sudden real-world shift in customer sentiment that happened just yesterday. So AI requires human expertise to apply historical patterns to novel, messy, edge case situations.
That distinction between pattern recognition and contextual judgment, that leads directly into a massive trap that the research highlights. Because executives desperately want AI to be this plug-and-play solution that solves their hiring crisis. They force it into a replacement role anyway, right?
They do, particularly at the entry level.
Yeah, they automate the bottom of the ladder.
And the cascading effects of that decision are alarming. Professor Mark Ma's research indicates that aggressive early AI adoption is actively hurting early career workers. And ironically, it's doing so without delivering the promised productivity dividends to the organization.
Let's break down why that happens.
Yeah.
Companies look at their junior staff and see them doing routine tasks, writing basic weekly reports, running preliminary market research, cleaning up data sets.
Right.
Management thinks, great, the AI can do all of this. The fatal flaw is that by eliminating those routine entry-level tasks, they are accidentally destroying the critical learning phase of a human career.
Exactly. Because routine tasks are not just busy work.
Right.
They are the cognitive mechanism through which a junior employee absorbs the broader organizational context. Reconciling spreadsheets is how a 23-year-old builds a mental map of how the company actually makes money.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Doing the preliminary research is how they learn to identify the industry's specific friction points. If you deploy a machine to do all the basic work, you completely hollow out your career pipeline. The missing junior employees of today become the severely underqualified mid-career professionals of tomorrow.
It's like a Major League Baseball franchise deciding to cut their entire minor league system to save money on salaries today.
Yes.
And then acting completely shocked 10 years later when they don't have any all-star players to call up.
Yeah.
You have bulldozed the training ground.
That's exactly what's happening.
But this leads to a huge question. If we are breaking the career ladder for young people, how are they ever supposed to learn that tacit knowledge, the unwritten rules, the political context, the subtle relationship dynamics that the retiring boomers are taking with them?
Well, if you fail to answer that, the organization hits what researchers call an innovation capacity constraint.
Innovation capacity constraint.
Right. This requires looking at the psychology of how humans actually innovate. Innovation isn't just a lightning bolt of inspiration that hits you in the shower.
Right. It's not magic.
It is the result of spending years immersed in the mundane details of an industry until your brain unconsciously maps the inefficiencies. It's the pattern recognition that only comes from deep practical experience.
Because purely technological systems cannot replicate this since they don't experience friction.
Exactly. If AI removes the human from the process of doing the work, the human never builds that mental map. You literally lose your future capacity to innovate and solve complex, novel problems.
And while you are destroying the future pipeline, the immediate burden on your older, experienced workers becomes absolutely crushing.
It really does.
Organizations are so desperate for that contextual judgment we talked about that they squeeze their senior staff. They lean on them to delay retirement. They pile on the workload because the juniors aren't properly trained to help, and it just triggers massive burnout.
You are crushing the top of the pyramid while simultaneously chopping off the bottom.
Which leaves you with an incredibly brittle operational model. It just cannot withstand a shock. So the imperative shifts, right? If automated the entry level is a trap, what does a sustainable, successful ratio of labor to tech actually look like?
Well, the paper introduces the concept of hybrid intelligence. This is the idea that humans and AI operating in tandem fundamentally outperform either one operating in isolation.
So it's about weaponizing comparative advantage. AI is deployed for its immense data processing capacity, its flawless memory, and its ability to apply learned rules consistently across millions of data points.
Exactly.
But the human is deployed for their contextual interpretation, their ethical judgment, and their ability to adapt reasoning when the rules suddenly change.
That's hybrid intelligence in a nutshell.
Let's look at how this mechanism actually functions in the real world, because the case studies in Westover's research are phenomenal.
They really clarify things.
Take JP Morgan Chase. They built a platform called Client Contract Intelligence. Its purpose is to analyze commercial loan contracts.
Right.
Historically, analyzing thousands of highly complex financial agreements takes armies of lawyers, hundreds of thousands of hours. Now, the AI platform does the extraction and flagging in seconds.
But they didn't just fire the legal department.
No, they redefined the lawyer's job. Experienced legal professionals now review the specific clauses the AI flagged. The human applies their judgment regarding the nuanced risk implications of those clauses, and the human makes the final strategic call on the contract terms.
So the machine handles the sheer volume and the extraction, and the human handles the strategic judgment.
Exactly.
And we see the exact same mechanism in industrial settings, like with Siemens.
Oh, the predictive maintenance example.
Yes. Siemens utilizes AI sensors across their manufacturing operations for predictive maintenance. The algorithms ingest millions of data points regarding temperature, vibration, and output, and they can predict an equipment failure long before it happens.
Wow.
The AI flags a turbine and says, shut this down for maintenance, but it's a veteran human technician who reviews that flag.
Because the AI doesn't see the big picture.
Right. The algorithm doesn't know that shutting down that specific machine right now would ruin a $5 million pharmaceutical production run. But the human does. The human looks at the flag, applies contextual knowledge about the production schedule, and decides to, say, delay the repair for 12 hours.
Unilever does something similar too, right? With cross-functional teams.
Yeah, Unilever uses these teams to design entirely different labor-to-tech ratios depending on the specific department.
Oh, so it's not a one-size-fits-all ratio.
Exactly. In their supply chain, the ratio is heavily weighted toward AI for logistics and routing. But in brand development, the ratio is heavily weighted toward humans because that requires cultural intuition and empathy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, but I have to ask on behalf of the skeptical listener.
Go for it.
Isn't this whole human-in-the-loop thing just a temporary stepping stone? Like a Band-Aid until the AI gets smart enough to not need the human lawyer or the technician at all?
It is the most common assumption in the market right now, but it fundamentally misinterprets how complexity scales.
Okay, how so?
There is a phenomenon in technology where making a system more efficient doesn't simplify the world. It actually accelerates it and makes it more complex. As AI systems become exponentially more powerful and handle vastly more volume, the potential catastrophic impact of a single error scales right alongside it.
Oh, I see.
The systems become more opaque and interconnected. Therefore, the necessity for human governance, ethical oversight, and adaptive reasoning doesn't shrink as the AI gets smarter. It actually grows. You need highly skilled humans to govern the increasingly complex, high-stakes environments that the AI is generating.
So humans remain absolutely vital. We literally cannot run the future economy without them.
No, we can't.
But we established in the very first section that our traditional labor pools are shrinking drastically due to birth rates and retirements. So if we desperately need these humans to govern the AI, where are we supposed to find them?
This is where the smartest organizations are entirely dismantling their traditional talent pipelines. The legacy model of waiting for a 22-year-old with a 4-year university degree to apply for a job is dead.
It's just mathematically impossible to sustain.
Absolutely impossible.
Let's dig into how companies are actually re-engineering this, because they are having to look in entirely new ecosystems. The first major shift is intergenerational strategy, right?
Yeah, combining the old and the new.
Like Boeing pairing senior engineers who are about to retire with junior engineers to literally transfer decades of aerospace knowledge before it walks out the door.
Right. And CVS Health did something similar with their Talent Bridges program.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
They created flexible, reduced hours to keep retiring pharmacists on staff, specifically to mentor the incoming staff. It keeps the tacit knowledge flowing.
And another major shift is structural reskilling. Instead of firing and hiring, companies are looking inward. AT&T is the prime example here. They spent over $1 billion creating AT&T University.
Which was a massive undertaking. When AT&T realized the telecom industry was aggressively shifting away from copper wires and hardware toward cloud computing and software-defined networks, they faced a crisis.
because their workforce was doubly skilled in legacy technology.
Exactly. Now, the traditional corporate playbook would be to execute mass layoffs of the hardware engineers and try to hire thousands of new software engineers.
But those new software engineers don't know how AT&T actually functions. They don't have the tacit knowledge of the company's internal friction points.
Right. So AT&T built a massive internal curriculum to retrain their existing people. Think about the psychological hurdle of taking someone who has spent 20 years mastering physical hardware and transitioning them to cloud architecture.
That's huge.
But they managed to retain the deep institutional context of their employees while entirely upgrading their technical capabilities to match the new era.
Deloitte's doing this too, right? Using AI to map workforce capabilities rather than just relying on job titles.
Yeah, mapping the actual skills people have, not just what their resume says. And when organizations do have to look externally, they are completely reevaluating their filtering mechanisms.
Like dropping degree requirements.
Exactly. IBM dropped bachelor's degree requirements for half their jobs, focusing instead on what they call new-collar skills, because the traditional interview process is being exposed as a highly flawed tool that actively screens out the exact talent companies need for this AI transition.
Microsoft is a brilliant case study for this. They totally redesigned their hiring process with their autism hiring program.
Right, because standard corporate interviews test for the wrong things.
Exactly. When you think about a standard corporate interview, what is it actually testing for? It tests for social conformity. It tests for strong eye contact, the ability to engage in unstructured small talk, and, reading the subtle body language of the interviewer.
None of which has any correlation with a candidate's ability to build complex software architectures or govern AI systems.
None at all.
By relying on that traditional interview format, HR departments have been actively rejecting neurodivergent candidates who possess world-class pattern recognition and systems thinking skills.
So Microsoft recognized this failure and shifted away from conversational interviews toward multi-day, hands-on work samples. They let candidates demonstrate their actual capabilities in structured technical environments.
They stopped filtering for social performance and started filtering for the skills actually required to navigate a high-tech landscape.
And it's not just about hiring, it's about retaining them. Like Patagonia attracting top talent in a constrained market, not by paying the absolute highest salaries, but through aligned values, on-site childcare, and extreme flexibility.
Total rewards, not just cash.
Right. It's like, for decades, corporate America has been fishing in the exact same tiny shrinking pond, using the exact same bait 4-year degrees. And these companies are finally realizing they need to go fish in the ocean.
That's a perfect analogy.
But if a company is listening to this and realizing they need to completely overhaul how they find and train talent, it feels like an impossible audit. You can't just send out a company-wide survey asking thousands of employees, hey, what hidden skills do you have?
No, you definitely can't.
So how are large organizations actually mapping their internal capabilities to figure out what they have versus what they need?
They are turning the technology inward to build predictive workforce intelligence. Cisco provides a great blueprint for this.
What does Cisco do?
They don't just look at lagging HR metrics to see who quit last month. They use predictive data models to forecast retention risks and skill gaps on a granular level before they manifest as operational crises.
Oh, wow. So it's proactive.
Very. By analyzing patterns in engagement data, external market shifts, and internal project outcomes, they can map the actual capabilities of their workforce. They transition from managing job titles to managing a dynamic portfolio of human skills.
So what does this all mean? If you are a professional trying to navigate this chaotic landscape, the core takeaway is a massive paradigm shift. You are not competing against artificial intelligence. You're competing against other professionals to be the absolute best human collaborator with artificial intelligence. And for the organizations listening, the mandate is clear. Buying the most expensive, cutting-edge AI software is completely useless and potentially dangerous if you don't simultaneously invest in the human talent required to deploy it, govern it, and integrate it into reality.
This raises an important question for leadership teams. How deeply adaptable is your organization? Like GE's historical models of constant evolution, the defining competitive advantage of the next decade won't be a specific proprietary algorithm.
It'll be adaptability.
Right. It will be organizational learning, Companies must build systems that can continuously sense environmental changes, experiment with new labor-to-tech ratios, and adapt their strategies based on hard evidence. You cannot simply buy your way into an AI-driven future. You have to purposefully co-evolve your entire human workforce alongside the technology.
It is a constant, rigorous calibration. But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on this research but points to a wild, unmentioned future.
Oh, okay.
As AI continues to scale, it is going to make digital tasks, content creation, and complex data analysis hyper-abundant and virtually free.
Right.
And when something becomes incredibly abundant, its value drops to zero. So what happens to the value of the things that AI fundamentally cannot do? In a world completely saturated by artificial synthetic intelligence, unaugmented human time and pure human attention might just become the ultimate luxury good. Your authentic, messy, deeply contextual human perspective might soon be the most valuable and expensive currency on Earth.